Have you ever wondered about the intricate web of international relations and how one country's actions can affect another's decisions? Let's take a step back in history to shed light on this fascinating subject. In the throes of World War II, a dark period in human history, the Philippines extended a helping hand to Jewish refugees fleeing the horrors of the Holocaust. This was a time when many doors were closed to these persecuted people, yet the island nation opened its arms, embracing the humanitarian spirit. But why? What led the Philippines to this remarkable decision? The answer lies in the blend of politics, empathy, and geographical circumstance. Firstly, the Philippines, though under American sovereignty at the time, had a degree of autonomy that allowed for such decisions. The then-President Manuel Quezon was a man of strong moral fiber who empathized with the plight of the Jews. He championed their cause, lobbying for their refuge despite potential political backlash. Secondly, the geographical distance from the epicenter of conflict allowed the Philippines to act as a safe haven for these refugees. Its remote location was far from the reach of Nazi persecution, providing a secure sanctuary for those fleeing the horrors of the Holocaust. But perhaps most importantly, it was the collective humanitarian spirit of the Filipino people that underpinned this decision. Despite their own struggles, they recognized the dire circumstances of the Jewish people and chose to extend a lifeline. Now let's fast forward to the present day. Imagine a hypothetical scenario where Taiwan, a small island nation off the coast of China, faces a similar threat. If such a situation were to arise, could we see the Philippines repeat history? Could the Philippines, with its history of humanitarian aid, once again open its doors to a persecuted people? Would the international community support such a decision, or would political tensions override humanitarian considerations? Could the Philippines make a similar decision if Taiwan were attacked by China? Keep watching until the end for the answer, and don't forget to subscribe and like. To understand the potential for such a decision, we need to examine the current political climate. The Philippines, Taiwan, and China are all key players in the East Asian region, each with their own unique histories and relationships with one another. The Philippines and Taiwan share a rather cordial relationship. They are bound by their shared history, cultural exchanges, and trade relations. However, the elephant in the room is the One China policy, which the Philippines officially recognizes. According to this policy, there's only one China that includes Taiwan, and countries can't establish official diplomatic relations with both. Now let's bring China into the picture. The relationship between China and the Philippines has been a roller coaster ride, marked by territorial disputes in the South China Sea, economic ties, and diplomatic maneuvering. The Philippines, while maintaining strong economic ties with China, has also been cautious of its expansive claims in the region. In contrast, the tension between China and Taiwan has been palpable, primarily due to the unresolved issue of Taiwan's status. China views Taiwan as a breakaway province, while Taiwan sees itself as a sovereign state. This discord has led to a complex and often strained relationship. What makes the situation even more intriguing is the Philippines' unique position. On one hand, the Philippines has a history of standing up for human rights and offering refuge to those in need. On the other hand, it also has to navigate its delicate relationship with China and its adherence to the One China policy. The question then becomes, would the Philippines risk its relationship with China to provide refuge to Taiwanese individuals in the event of conflict? Or would it prioritize its diplomatic ties and economic interests with China over humanitarian concerns? These are the questions that the current political climate presents. It's a delicate balancing act, and the implications of these relationships could significantly impact the potential acceptance of Taiwanese refugees. So, given these strained relations and complex alliances, what could be the possible outcome? Now let's delve into the humanitarian aspects of this question. The potential for a humanitarian crisis is very real if China were to attack Taiwan. We're talking about thousands, if not millions of people, fleeing their homes to escape violence and uncertainty. But where would they go? Would these Taiwanese refugees find a safe haven in the Philippines, just like the Jews did during the Holocaust? The Philippines has a track record of stepping in during times of crisis. During World War II, the country opened its doors to Jewish refugees fleeing the horrors of the Holocaust. This was a time when many nations had shut their borders, but the Philippines chose to stand on the side of compassion, offering sanctuary to those in dire need. Then again, in the late 70s, the Philippines welcomed Vietnamese refugees, providing them with a temporary refuge from the violence of the Vietnam War. The country has consistently shown that it values human life and dignity above political squabbles and international tensions. But would this extend to a potential crisis involving Taiwan and China? The answer is not as straightforward as one might think. The Philippines, like many nations, has to balance its humanitarian instincts with political realities. With the geopolitical situation in the East Asia region being as complicated as it is, the decision to accept refugees from Taiwan would not be made lightly. While the country's history of humanitarian actions is encouraging, it's important to remember that every situation is unique. The circumstances surrounding a potential conflict between China and Taiwan would be different from those of the Holocaust or the Vietnam War. Yet, at the heart of the matter remains a fundamental question. How much value do we place on human life and dignity? How do we, as a global community, respond when our fellow human beings are in need? As we've seen, the Philippines has a history of standing up for those in need. But would that extend to Taiwanese refugees in this scenario? Let's imagine a hypothetical scenario. Picture this. China attacks Taiwan, triggering a massive wave of refugees fleeing the conflict. The Philippines, a neighboring nation, is faced with the decision of whether to open its borders and embrace these refugees, just as it did with Jews during the Holocaust. This is not a simple yes or no decision. It's a complex issue involving political, economic, and humanitarian implications. From a political perspective, the Philippines, like many countries, has to balance its foreign relations. It has ties with both China and Taiwan, and accepting Taiwanese refugees could strain relations with China, potentially leading to economic repercussions. On the economic front, the Philippines, a developing country, would have to find the resources to accommodate an influx of refugees. Would the country's economy be able to sustain such an impact? Could it provide housing, food, and employment for these new arrivals while still maintaining the well-being of its own citizens? But then we consider the humanitarian angle. The Philippines has a history of offering sanctuary to those in need. During the Holocaust, it accepted Jewish refugees when many other countries turned them away. This act of compassion is engraved in the nation's history, a testament to the Filipino spirit of bayanihan, signifying community and mutual assistance. So, would the Philippines extend the same compassion to Taiwanese refugees? Would it uphold its humanitarian legacy? Despite the potential political and economic challenges, remember, this is not a prediction, but a hypothetical scenario. The real-world situation is far more complex, with countless other factors at play. We can speculate, debate, and discuss, but ultimately, we cannot predict with certainty what the future holds. In this imagined scenario, we've highlighted the potential challenges and dilemmas that the Philippines might face. It's a scenario that forces us to think, to question, and to understand the complexities of international politics, economics, and humanitarianism. This hypothetical scenario raises many questions, but ultimately the answer lies in the hands of the Philippines. Now, it's time to answer the question we've all been waiting for. Would the Philippines open its arms to Taiwanese refugees, as it did for Jewish refugees during the Holocaust, if China were to attack Taiwan? Given the historical precedent, we know that the Philippines has shown immense humanitarian spirit in times of crisis. During the Holocaust, they provided refuge to more than 1,000 Jews, a testament to the country's generosity and humanity. In the present day, the Philippines has a complex relationship with both Taiwan and China. Its economic ties with China are significant, and it also has considerable cultural and historical connections with Taiwan. The decision would certainly not be an easy one, considering these factors and the potential geopolitical implications. One might argue that the humanitarian aspect could overrule political considerations. After all, providing refuge to those in need is a universal value, one that transcends borders and politics. But it's also important to remember that governments must consider the well-being and safety of their own citizens. How would the influx of refugees impact the Philippines socially and economically? And then there's the question of international response. Would other nations support the Philippines in its decision? Would they provide aid and resources to help manage the refugee crisis? Or would they stand on the sidelines, leaving the Philippines to face the challenges alone? Weighing all these factors, it's difficult to definitively say what the Philippines would do. It's a delicate balance of morality, politics, and practicality. But based on past actions and current relations, it's plausible to believe that the Philippines might indeed extend a helping hand to Taiwanese refugees, though not without careful consideration and potential international collaboration. While we can't predict the future, we can analyze the past and present to make educated guesses. And remember, it's through pondering these complex questions that we broaden our understanding of the world and our place in it. Subscribe for more amazing content. Keep wondering. Don't miss out on future explorations and discoveries. Hit subscribe and ring the bell to stay updated with our new content. Your journey of wonder continues with every video. Stay connected and engaged on social media. Continue the conversation, follow us. Thank you for being a part of the Have You Ever Wondered community. Keep wondering, keep discovering. Until next time.